Колеги, дякуємо за очікування. Я одразу до слова запрошую Володимира.
For waiting, esteemed colleagues, I would like to invite Andrei Demchyshyn, who will be talking about the reforms in the energy sector. You're welcome. Good afternoon. I'm sorry for being late. I understand that today, mostly, I will try to describe what has been happening for the last 3 months, and I'm ready to answer all the questions, irrespective of whether these are strategic or operational questions. I understand that we don't have much time, because after that there is a planned briefing. So I will start from main things. That during the last 3 months, we have managed to achieve certain things. I'm sure you will ask about what we failed to achieve, but I will tell you about what we managed to achieve. Some of these topics are well known: balancing of energy system. We managed to step away from fan cutting off. These are standard things, and I have been mentioning them before, but you remember the situation in December when the industry, the industrial enterprises, railway were cut off, disconnected, but that was a big problem because we could not deliver the coal to the power plants, and the situation was very complicated. And we had to do everything. We were bringing coal, we were trying to agree on that with the ATO zone, and we were bringing coal from there. We were loading all the capacities to the maximum. Energatom did a lot. We appreciate their work. 55% of all the electricity is generated by Energatom. That is cheap electricity. And thanks to it, the tariff for industry and the household, we managed to keep at a low level. But with the different proportion, the cost would have been different, and the steps would have been different. Very often, people ask question whether the tariff that exists for heat generation, for thermal generation, nuclear generation, whether it is realistic, whether it is stimulating for the development, whether it is fair. I can tell you that in reality the regulator was doing maximum possible to balance the interests of both consumers and producers. And they were reviewing the tariff for Energatom and Ukrenergo regularly. In the fourth quarter, when I was working at the regulator, we reduced the tariffs to form the resource to purchase coal. Thermal generation was also received 2 billion in the end of December, and they had to buy coal for this money. So I mean that in order to stabilize the system, the energy system, they had to do a lot. That wasn't just us signing. Many people say that that was a treaty with Russia, which was like a betrayal, and but we managed to stabilize the system, and even now we still do not have enough internally generated electricity. All the kilowatts that we can generate here in Ukraine, we buy them, and 900 megawatt are not enough for us. The consumption is bigger. We import. There are many who criticize import, but I told everyone that that is a force majeure instrument. As soon as we manage to cope without imported electricity, we will refuse from that. What is the alternative to import? To launch gas mazout units, that's alternative. But the import that everyone is talking about in January, the cost was 2 rubles 5 kopecks. we buy it in rubles. It was 3.3 dollar cents. You understand that in principle, at that moment, at that exchange rate, this was quite adequate. But as of today, the average price was 240, the lower, and that is what everyone was talking about. That was in February, the average price was 230. It depends on the market, but that's lower than 240. The structure of consumption was a little bit different than in January. Payment for capacity plays a very significant role. In January we had more holidays and we managed to get electricity at a lower price. But nevertheless that is lower than 240, and that is the price that we agreed on. So from the point of view of the agreement, it's adequate. Talking about the price, it's also adequate. If we calculate it via exchange rate, then there are some issues because the exchange rate was changing, but because we were buying it at according to residual principle, the alternative is what? Gas, which we don't have. And if someone wants ask a question, I can tell you a lot about that. But the cost of such kilowatt would have been much higher. And about hard currency transactions, because you all remember there's the second agreement of supply to the temporary non-controlled territory to Crimea, where ruble is also the currency of payment. So there were no currency difference, because when we were selling to Crimea, receiving the ruble at an adequate price, many people are saying that we are supplying there at 70 kopecks. We now supply at 3 rubles without VAT, which today is about 5 cents multiplied by 23. That is much higher than a hryvnia. So it's not, we're not losing, but depending on the exchange rate, it could be profit. January, Interenergia received the profit. Just for commercial purposes, I will not quote the exact figure, but that is in millions, up to 10 million hryvnias. In February, that was more than 10 million hryvnias, up to 30 million hryvnias. So they are earning money, they're accumulating resources so that they can spend this money for modernization of thermal units. We're talking about them a lot. They are now operating on anthracite and we don't have that. But we did a lot of work to transfer most of the units from anthracite to gas. This is quite a disputable issue. To transfer, we need money and time, it's about 2 years to redesign the boilers, because the system of supply burning is different for gas and anthracite groups of coal. So we don't have that much time, and we are trying to get ready for the next heating season, and we are following the simplified procedure. I hope that we will be ready to the next heating season better. That also is to be announced. We of course can attract some money, but we need own money. Any investment project cannot operate only at the expense of external funding. And for that, Interenergia probably will be used. So that is all what I'm talking about it sounds simple. We refuse from disconnections, but here we have to work a lot with thermal energy, nuclear, hydro, thermal power plants, which have operated well. There were problems with supplies of coal to them, with gas that they consume. So that was via Naftagaz, and these were diseases which had to be addressed. So energy sector, gas, energy sector and coal. Also, we were working a lot in oil and gas sector. I will not really take the medals which are to be awarded to Naftagaz, because they had very successful negotiations with Europeans, and they were buying at the spot market at a price much lower than what price we could have been buying from Russia. So they did a lot of work, and now they made it possible for us to quite adequately negotiate about this summer package, because we understand that we do have alternative with these reverse capacities. We can supply enough gas. Besides, you know probably that last week there was a draft law submitted on the gas market, which has to change the structure of the market. The regulations, the pricing will change. This will be fundamentally different approach. But for that, we need to get prepared. The legislation and regulatory basis will be changing a lot. For certain period of time, this will be a transitional period, because now it's very difficult to refuse from subsidizing consumers and from distribution accounts, which we have in gas distribution. Many instruments will still be there, but in principle the process has started. It has been approved by the European community, it's based energy community, and it has to change the market significantly. Besides, now from coal sector, well, I would like to say a few words about coal. We had to pay a lot of attention to our Ukrainian coal mines. There are 35 of them, more than 50,000 workers. For a long period of time they were receiving subsidies. They were not motivated to really think a lot about economic situation. We analyzed all the 35 coal mines. We identified those which are more perspective and less perspective. I've heard a lot of criticism. People are asking, why are you closing the coal mines? Because that means social problems, and strategically that's wrong to do so. But I can tell you the decision on reorganization, because that's not just closing, that's reorganization during certain period of time. That includes exclusively the coal mines where there are no perspectives, the coal mines which are depleted. There are 12 coal mines, and they have 2-3 million reserves. It sounds a lot, but these are not perspective facilities. The production was going on there in a limited volumes. the horizons have been emptied, basically. The infrastructure is also obsolete. I understand that this is a difficult social problem, but this is the problem which is to be accepted, and how to re-socialize these people. Maybe we need to move them to somewhere else, how to get them prepared to life outside of coal mines. These are difficult questions, and when trade unions come and they say, you are not professional, you do not understand anything, you are not supporting our coal mines. My question is, who's professional? The one who was just giving money to you, but we have no possibility to do so. I understand that no one was interested in the cost. We had every financial department of coal mine had to provide us information, but they wouldn't understand what we want to get from them. No one was working on these things. And I believe that all the data that we have collected, it's useful for me, for us, as the ministry, and I do not understand how without it we could have been working. I wouldn't have started the discussion on journalism. I don't have a professional experience, professional background. I'm not a Mark Shader. I agree with that, but and the problem is the economics, the finance. That is where I can add value. Let's look at how situation develops during the next 2 or 3 months. And I'm sure that the mines themselves will feel it, because strategically it's more expensive to continue and try to save them. We spend a lot of time with DTEC, and they say we invested 1.5 billion to Pavlograd. We are now producing more there, but they received a quite good starting position. That was a prospective coal mine with powerful horizons, with big reserves. There was a basis to start from, but of course they were reinvesting into this asset, and that is why today their cost is less than 1,000 hryvnias per ton. But that hasn't been done in state-owned coal mines, but we should better get concentrated. If we do not understand what's happening in the east or what could have been happening there, it's difficult to make a decision on western coal mines. In Volyn there are minimum 2 out of 4, and everyone recognizes that the local authorities, but in such conditions, understanding that maybe tomorrow there will be no perspective to get any Ukrainian coal, we are keeping them maximum long. We will try to attract them. One more issue quite hurting on coal. We have Ukrainian coal, you don't burn it, buy Russian. Next time to Leshko, there's a G type and anthracite type coal. We cannot burn G type coal more than we have capacities. All our capacities are loaded. That is why we have a surplus. Volodymyrska plant wasn't operating for a month. That's influenced the economics of the state-owned mines, because we could not sell But thank God, during the last 3 days, they have been operating. And I'm sure if that continues, so the situation will change. We'll be paying salaries and we'll start paying salaries within a very short period of time, 2-3 weeks, and we get first money. Today we have paid the debt for December. The people from Detect may start saying, no, they have not paid everything for December. No, but we are already paying the salary for January, because in the budget there are 200 million which we can use to pay December debts. Now we are paying January salary. And from the point of view of calculations, we have paid for December, we are now paying for January. I agree that till the 20th of March we should have had paid for February. I understand that the time is very expensive, but in principle we just owe money for January, and I understand where to get money from. How to form the, how to organize the sales, and how to give work to miners. And the calculations they are needed. That's true. So that is coal energy, the work which is being done every day, but from the point of view of strategy, the strategy of development and reforming coal industry, there is a book already compiled. We will submit it to the Cabinet of Ministers. The program will be approved by the Cabinet of Ministers and will be working according to it. We develop trade unions to developing this program. If we have to close a coal mine, we have to get approval of trade unions and the local authorities. So now we started this procedure for 3. There are 9 more that will be part of this group. But after that reform, we will have perspective mines, coal mines, which will help us operate with very good, adequate capacity. And those people who work in such mines, they will feel well, because thanks to all these on their work, on auctions for liquefied gas and refinery products. A lot has been done so that these refinery products are sold at adequate price. These are public processes. The auction committee was changed. We cancelled all transactions which are organized at a price which is lower than the market price. We explained that to the market, and I believe that was in mass media also. Talking about oil, Ukernafta is now firing. We have changed the formula. When there was an opportunity to sell with a discount and lose billion grivnas per transaction, we stopped this transaction. So the initial price was formed on the basis of 15 hryvnias, and then the next day the exchange rate was 23. So the losses were could have been fundamental, could have not. We suspended this process, stopped that together with the Ministry of Economy, and they filed the case to the court. But also there are so many articles about our professionalism, so you understand what I mean. Maybe you have questions on that before we proceed with something else. Thank you. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left, so now let's then quickly, very quickly, Ukraine. I have a question in relation that the royalty for gas production was increased. Have you calculated? Yeah, I will explain. You see, in reality, that's a technical step to increase up to 70% for Укрвидобування, because the cost at which Укрвидобування will sell to NAK Naftogaz will grow. It will be up to 1,600 hryvnias, and the difference between that and the cost which is needed for operational expenditures, and the money needed for repair, for upgrading the drilling equipment, for some investments to Shibilinka. All this money will help to produce refinery products, to increase the production. All these investments are needed, and 70% are calculated so that the price at which they sell to Naftogaz minus 70%, so that the sum which is left is what they need to do all they need to. I'm talking about Укргазвидобування. That's a state-owned company. Nothing could happen to it. Before that, they were selling their gas at 350 hryvnias. Today, at 600 minus royalty that will go to the budget, and the social subsidies to support the population for who it's difficult to pay that price will be paid from that. And the price which is set by the regulator. Did I answer your question? Ukrainian national news. Do you have a plan how to improve the situation with the biggest private shareholder of Ukrnafta, who said that he will block payment of dividends for several years? I have my own understanding, but as soon as I'm saying that we are trying to implement certain ideas, very quickly people start criticizing me that I agreed on something with them, that I'm getting some bribes. There are immediately many wonderful ideas coming up. The approach is very simple. It's very pragmatic and economic, and that's to everyone, to Ukrnafta, to state companies which are controlled by different people, or DTEC. The approach is the same. Everything honestly. We work for non-target programs, everything to the economy, to improve the cost, to enhance the production, and to improve the quality for the consumer. And the fact that they're not paying dividends, okay, we're working with them. I can assure you, the Ministry of Finance very often is trying to get money from banks, from their accounts, but you can imagine as a rule, they are informed and there's no money on the accounts. So without using some extraordinary measures, it is impossible to get that money. Talking about change of management, organizing the general membership meeting, the legal framework to do that, well, the legal framework does not allow to do that. The agreements are signed between the shareholders and they have certain veto right, and without approval of the shareholder, it's impossible to do that, the main shareholder. If certain decisions are made, then yes, the negotiations are going on every day. All understand what the group is, what assets they have, talking about transportation, transit, refining, production. Besides, all understand what other assets they have on distribution. They have banking, media, assets. I'm interested only in energy assets, but I would like to say that I'm sure that such a comprehensive discussion is going on. One very brief question, just one. Ukrainian news. Does Naftogaz supply gas to ATO zone? There's information that they do not accept it there. There was a big discussion in Brussels, who supplies, how supplies. We argued, and the representatives of European Commission could not define who in which volume supplies this gas to the zone. Gas declares that they supply certain volumes. They sort of have the confirmation from Donbas Transgas about these volumes, but I cannot say that is the issue to be examined, and we agreed in Brussels that we will not include that issue into winter package. When we start discussing summer package, we'll discuss that, but not now. These payments do not influence prepayments, these volumes, if they are there. This is quite a complicated issue. And without additional joint group that can do monitoring and confirm the volumes, it will be difficult to do that. This will be the subject for next negotiations. Anything else? Unfortunately, one more question. We need to request the journalists to leave the room because of the security measures. We are looking forward to seeing you next week.